Hey guys, and welcome back to the Quick Slant on Green Bay Packer Nation. Today we're doing our By the Numbers segment. We're going to look back at the final stats from the game between the Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to then take a glimpse at some of the overarching stats for the Packers as a whole this season, and then we're going to take a look forward at the stats that might play a factor in the game against the Browns. So stay tuned. So while the Packers didn't look good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at least not as good as we expected them to look, still, we all know that the one stat that matters is the final score. So, hey, a win's a win. We'll take it. Here are a few of the stats that I dug up that I thought were kind of critical in that matchup between the Packers and the Buccaneers. Let's start with the negatives and kind of end on a positive note. So obviously, Brett Hundley he admitted it. He's kind of on this roller coaster. He's up and down. He did poorly early on, then did quite well against the Steelers, and the Steelers have a very good defense. And we kind of expected that maybe he'd take another step forward and put up 30 points against Tampa Bay, keep Tampa Bay's offense off the field, and we'd come away with a pretty substantial win. That didn't happen. He was completing only 59.1% of his passes, and he only had 84 yards passing total on the night. So that was pretty disappointing based on what we expected from Brett. Looking back on his showing with the Steelers. Also, we had Jordy Nelson with only 5 catches for 17 yards. That is a 3.4 yard average, which is middling if you're a running back. If you're a wide receiver, that's atrocious. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that, a couple of things. I think Jordy looks like he's lost a step, and he just does not look on the same page with Brett Hundley. So you add those two together, and Jordy's really struggling down the stretch with Brett. Those were really the poor statistics of the game. You could throw in time of possession in there. Tampa Bay had the ball for 37 minutes, and we only had the ball for 26 minutes. Although I don't think time of possession carries a lot of weight sometimes, especially on an offense like that's led by Aaron Rodgers. Aaron and company can score a touchdown in a very short amount of time. So the fact that another team maybe has more time of possession might not necessarily be relevant. So let's move on to the positives. Jamal Williams was outstanding. He averaged 5.4 yards a carry, had 113 yards in this game, and I watched Jamal run, and I still think that, number one, we're opening bigger holes than we did when he first carried the ball early in the season. And number two, he looks like he's just running with a lot of determination because he has that second wind. He lost his position to Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones looked really good, and now that Jamal has a chance to run the ball again, he wants to show that he can be the guy. And he's to his credit, he's doing it. So 5.4 yards a carry is not bad. And actually, we'll get on later in the segment. We'll get on to another stat for Williams that I think is just outstanding, and that might make the Williams Jones 1-2 punch a really good thing for the Packers in the remainder of the season. Aaron Jones, he only had 1 carry but it was for 20 yards and a touchdown. I was listening to Mike Spofford and Wes Hodkiewicz on the Packers podcast, and I kind of wondered how Jones even got in the game for 1 single rush. Apparently, Williams actually called Jones in the game. He wanted a quick rest to punch the ball in, and he expected that Jones would run the ball and would be stopped short of the end zone, obviously, and that he would go back in and finish the job. But who would have guessed that Aaron Jones would have just bounced it outside and stole that touchdown away from Williams. Clay with his 3 sacks, we definitely have to mention that. That was outstanding. It was fun to see. It was almost like watching the old Clay again. He just was a holy terror on the field, not just with the 3 sacks, but he was all over the place. Dean Lowry, he had 1 sack for 14 yards, and of course, the big stat was the fumble he picked out of the sky and ran back for a touchdown. Without that, this was a very different game, so we got to give props to Dean Lowry this game. Overall, we had 7 sacks for 40 yards, and I thought that was a huge factor in this game. I hope we can keep that kind of pressure on quarterbacks, even if we're not getting to the quarterback and getting 7 sacks. If we can get close to quarterbacks, most of the quarterbacks we run into in this league really crumble under pressure and make bad choices. Looking forward to the Browns game, they've got a rookie quarterback who is going to make some serious mistakes if we can even get pressure on him, even if we don't get sacks. So I think that's a critical stat from the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so I want to touch on a few interesting stats, kind of year-to-date stats for the Packers. We're not going to deal with their ranking according to scoring and touchdowns, total yards. We're not going to deal with that yet because that's going to factor into what we're looking at with the coming game against the Browns. But for this segment, I just want to touch on a few key stats that really stood out to me. This one's a negative one. Passes intercepted. Brett has 8 interceptions in 8 games this season, which is, I guess, I still think he's a young quarterback. I still think he's making young quarterback mistakes. He does not have a lot of reps under his belt. Yes, he has a few games, but nothing like a Case Keenum, who has been a backup for multiple teams and actually gotten reps with several teams. So I want to cut him a little bit of slack, but 8 interceptions in 8 games is hard to swallow. The only thing that makes me smile about that stat is the fact that Jay Cutler, in his move to Miami, is still Jay Cutler, and he's got 11 interceptions in only 10 games. So that makes me smile a little bit and maybe makes Brett's 8 interceptions a little more palatable. In percentage of passes completed, this one surprised me, and I think is a key to the fact that Brett's been able to pull out some wins. In percentage of passes completed, late and close, Brett is actually number 10 in the league. He has a 64.3% completion rate when the game is late and it's close. So that tells me that when the chips are down and we need to score, Brett is consistently completing passes, and that is really cool. It's a very positive thing for Brett Hundley. In light of the difficulties he's had, it's still a very positive thing that when the chips are down and we need some production, he is producing. Rushing TDs. Jones is number 19 with 4 rushing TDs. And the reason this stat pops out to me is that Jones has only played in 9 games and not even 9 full games. And he's ranking right up there with guys who have played 11 and 12 full games. And that's impressive. I just love watching Aaron Jones run. Looking forward to him getting back on the field. And this is the kind of thing that is a result of his exquisite vision on the field. Yards per carry in the first half, Jones is number 7 with 5.3 yards per carry, and he gets even better in the second half, averaging 5.7 yards a carry. Now, here's the key where I think a Williams-Jones 1-2 punch could be a really effective thing for the Packers going forward. In yards per carry on 1st and 10, Williams is actually number I don't know where he ranks in the league, but he's averaging 4.5 yards per carry on 1st and 10. Kind of might be a great situation where we can put in Williams on first down, get off to a good start, and then have Jones following up. That's good potential. Nelson he only ranks number 14 in the league in touchdowns, but when you think about the fact that he hasn't caught a touchdown since Aaron Rodgers left the game, that's pretty impressive. And all of those 6 touchdowns that Jordy Nelson has were all in the second half, which to me says, it's pretty obvious. As the game wears on, we just go to Jordy because he's our main go-to guy. Adams, of course, doing very well this year. He's 6th in the league with 7 touchdowns, and that's in the second half. And in the fourth quarter touchdowns, Adams and Nelson are actually tied for 7th with 3 touchdowns apiece. So that's pretty much in a nutshell kind of some of the more interesting stats, year-to-date stats for the Packers. So let's move on to the game coming up against the Browns. Okay, I'm going to be honest. There's not a lot that stands out when you match up the Packers and the Browns. Kind of disappointing because this is a Packers team that has been to the playoffs for, 8-9 seasons straight. But the Packers' offense is 20th in scoring with 21.5 points per game. The Browns' defense for scoring is 26th in the league, 25.7 points per game. The Packers' passing offense, of course, without Aaron Rodgers, we rank 27th in the league with 197.3 yards per game. And the Browns' defense is a little bit better, but kind of middling with ranked 17th in the league with allowing 230.3 yards per game. On the Packers' defense side, their passing defense, which we know has had a lot of struggles, is 26th in the league. The Browns' passing offense, of course, led by that rookie quarterback, is 23rd in the league. And the Packers' run defense is 14th in the league. The Browns' run offense is 19th in the league. Not much really stands out there. But there are 2 things that really kind of popped out to me and maybe gives us insight into how this game might play out. The first is that the Packers' run offense is ranked 16th in the league, with averaging 108.6 yards per game, and they're coming up against a Browns run defense that's pretty good. They rank number 6 in the league, only allowing 96.9 yards per game. What this tells us is that if the Packer run game can get going, if we can put up 100 yards plus on the Browns' number 6 ranked defense, we're going to be pretty convinced that this is an outstanding rushing offense. And that's just going to, at some point when Aaron Rodgers comes back, Mike McCarthy's going to have a hard time deciding what plays to call, because he with run, pass, it's all going to be good. So that's very positive. And of course, as we talked about with the Tampa Bay game, kind of an ugly game, but hey, a win's a win. In the end, the one stat that always matters most is scoring. And here's how the scoring plays out for this game between the Packers and the Browns. The Packers' defense is number 17 in the league in scoring. They only allow 23.4 points per game. The Browns' offense is dead last in scoring. They've been scoring an average of 14.7 points per game. And so there have been podcasters and journalists and beat writers who have talked about the fact that this might be a very close game, and it very well may be. I've heard the Browns Packers game, like, people are mentioning that the Browns are up against a wall. Well, I don't really see them as up against a wall as much as I see them more like a cornered badger or a cornered cougar. Not a team in the league ever wants to leave the season with 0 wins. And it's starting to look like the Browns are about to do that. And it's starting to look like this is probably their only chance to put up a W. So they're going to come out fighting, and I think that they're probably going to score, but the way this Packers defense has been playing in that scoring stat, I don't see the Browns being able to put up a lot of points. Even emotion involved, even with a ton of determination, I just don't see the Browns being able to put up a lot of points. So those are the numbers for this Packers-Browns game. If you're new here and you've not subscribed, we'd love to have you do so. Don't forget to tap that bell notification or that bell icon so you can get notifications every time we post a new video. And check back tomorrow when we do our Prediction Friday. Jump into the comments and give your predictions for this coming game against the Packers and Browns.